Sagittarius, if you are between the ages of 40 and 65, get ready for what you never imagined. Have you ever felt like your life is just beginning, even when the world around you says you're already halfway through? Have you ever looked up at the sky, in the midst of age, responsibilities, wounds, and things that seem too late, and still heard a whisper in your heart? A dream without a name. A feeling that God has not said his final word to you yet. If you are a Sagittarius, between the ages of 40 and 65, then what I'm about to say is not a prediction. It's a calling. A soul awakening. A sacred door waiting to be opened, by your very own hands. In the next 30 minutes, I will take you on a journey unlike any other. Where unexpected changes will no longer be something you fear, but instead, turning points that lead you exactly where you truly belong. We will speak about the resurrection of relationships you thought had gone cold. About a miraculous love that will knock when you are no longer looking. About a quiet spiritual awakening that is steadily growing within you. About work, finances, family, the soul, but more than anything else, about why you are still here. Why the fire within you has never gone out. And why the greatest things are still ahead of you. If these words make your heart stir, write down a prayer below. Like a declaration sent into the universe, I am ready to receive my divine destiny. It's not just a comment. It is a nod from your soul. A signal you send to higher realms that says, I have heard. I understand, and I am ready. If you feel this message speaks to you, please like and share this video to spread positive energy to others. Who knows, you might be the one to awaken another soul that has been silently sleeping. Hold on to the light in your heart, because the first thing the universe wants to tell you is right here. There's something I've always believed, that for Sagittarius, age is not a period. It's a new chapter. People may say, at this age, it's time to settle down, time to stop. But for a soul like yours, that's no different than clipping your wings. Because you weren't born to simply live a safe life. You were born to expand the borders of your soul, to step into new territories of knowledge, love, and faith. I've met many people born under Sagittarius, and one thing they all had in common moved me deeply. No matter how much loss they've endured, no matter how many times they've fallen, there's still a strange light in their eyes. A light of hope, of endless inner adventure. As if they always believe that somewhere ahead, God is still writing their story. Between the ages of 40 and 65, you might be standing at many crossroads, a career that no longer feels the same. Relationships that seem to fade, faith being tested to its core. But this is exactly when the universe calls your name. Not to take you back to the past, but to help you be reborn. Reborn from within. I know, there are days when you wake up and feel like you're lost in your own life. You do what you must, carry what you have to carry. But somewhere deep down, you ask yourself, is this all there is? Is there still something waiting for me? The answer is, yes. And not just a yes. But, something is coming for you, something beyond your imagination. A divine invitation. For Sagittarius, this is not a time to shrink. It's a time to expand. To break free from old limitations, both in thought and in emotion. To begin living more intentionally than ever before. I say this not as a mere astrologer. I say this as someone who has witnessed countless lives transform when they dared to believe that they still could. One of the most important lessons I've learned from my own journey is this: sometimes the things we think are endings are actually sacred beginnings. And for Sagittarius, those beginnings are never random. They are intentional. They are the fruit of a soul that has ripened. The life lesson for you right now is this. Don't let society define your value by your age, your title, or your bank account. Let the light in your heart be the evidence of a meaningful life. Because true value is not in what you've accumulated, but in how you keep on living, even when everything seems settled. And you know what? The world needs you. It needs your wisdom. It needs a heart that's been hurt but still knows how to love. It needs the voice of someone who has walked through long nights, but never let the darkness take over completely. If you're listening to this and your heart is stirred, share one thing. What, at this age, still gives you hope? What part of you has never gone out? Write it down, not just to remind yourself, but to inspire someone who might be in need of a light. Because sometimes, just one sentence, one experience, is enough to save a soul on the edge. Try commenting, "There's still light in my heart." That's not just a simple affirmation. It's a commitment. A declaration that you, at any stage of life, are still someone living with purpose, with faith, and with a soul that never truly went to sleep. I know there is someone listening to this who feels so moved they can hardly breathe. Because you've grown so used to putting others first, so used to sacrificing that you forgot yourself. But today, I say this to you. It's time for you to step into the light. Not with a loud explosion, but with the gentleness, the depth, and the dignity of someone who finally knows who they are. Sagittarius is not a sign made for small living. You are vision. You are the pioneering spirit. You are someone who can inspire simply by your presence. And at this stage of life, your presence is the greatest gift the universe can offer this world. I don't know where you are as you listen to this, on a drive, at your desk, or in the middle of the night when the world is fast asleep. But I know one thing for certain. If you are Sagittarius, and if there's still something in your heart that's quietly calling your name, then your story is not over. The universe hasn't said its final word. And what's coming next will make you look back at all you've been through and say, it all had a purpose. Because right after this, you'll hear about something else that's waiting ahead of you. Not a coincidence, but a reunion. Between you and the relationships you thought were left behind. A resurrection is coming, and you can't afford to miss it. There's something no one ever clearly told us about entering midlife. That the relationships we thought had gone cold, can suddenly catch fire again. Not with reckless passion, but with maturity. With dried tears. With silences that have lasted long enough to finally turn into words. And Sagittarius, with your open heart and ever-moving spirit, is the one chosen for this mission of reconciliation. Have you noticed? The deepest wounds within us often don't come from strangers. They come from those who were once closest to us. The ones who once saw our dreams, once held our hand, once called our name in the softest tone. And they, at some moment, let go. Said something careless. Turned away. Stopped being our safe place. Sagittarius is the sign of forgiveness, but not because you're weak. It's because you understand, life is too short to carry anger as a legacy. You don't forget. But you learn to see every hurt as a spiritual lesson. Every crack is a place where the light can enter. And it's that very light that's now beginning to mend relationships once left behind. I don't know who just came to mind as you listened to these words. Maybe a family member. An old friend. Someone who once loved you deeply but wasn't mature enough to keep you. Or maybe it's you. You, who once lost yourself in too much giving. You, who shut the door on others because you couldn't bear another disappointment. But today, I believe, God wants to heal that. Not so that everything will return to how it was, but so that every heart can be free again. Some relationships will return. Some will be closed gently. But more important than any of that, is that you are given back your peace. The relief doesn't come from someone else changing. It comes from the fact that you no longer run from your own emotions. I used to think that forgiveness was something you did for the other person. But now I know, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It's how you tell the universe, I've learned the lesson. I'm ready to move forward. And when you say that with a sincere heart, the universe begins to open new doors. Maybe it's a phone call you never expected. A glance that meets yours again. A conversation that had never dared to begin. If you're listening to this and something is quietly rising in your heart, write this down. I am ready to heal. This is not just a comment. It's a declaration. A bridge you build between yourself and someone who was once an important part of your life. A prayer you send to heaven that says, I am ready to release this burden. The life lesson for you right now is, let the past keep its value, but don't let it define your future. Sometimes, reconciliation isn't about keeping someone in your life. It's about giving yourself permission to move on without dragging the shadow of old sorrow behind you. Sagittarius is a sign that carries a quiet gift of healing. Just by the way you live, love, and listen, others begin to heal themselves. And you, at this stage, can become the one who shifts the emotional atmosphere of an entire family. Even an entire generation. Because you've gone further. You've seen more. You've understood deeper. The world needs people like you. People who know when to speak, and when to simply love in silence. People brave enough to turn back and face what is still unfinished, not with blame, but with eyes full of compassion. I know there are doors that have been closed for so long. You've stopped thinking of knocking. But I also know, sometimes, heaven brings you back to those doors. Not to reopen everything, but so you can smile, place your hand on them, and whisper, thank you. Because of the wounds here, I finally understood what real love means. And then, you will walk away. Lighter. Freer. More alive. You will realize that you don't need the past to return in order to live well. You just need your heart to be free in order to keep living. The next part of this journey is about something you may have dreamed of for a long time. A dream that once felt too late. A desire you once tried to forget. But now, with the past gently released, the universe begins to whisper anew. Those things are not easy to forget. Not easy to forgive. But you know what? At some point, you realize what you can't let go of might be what's holding you back from the freedom God wants for you. I used to think that family was supposed to make us feel safe. But then I realized, family isn't always the place where we find perfection. It's where we learn patience. Compassion. How to love people even when they're not like us. Even when they disappoint us. Even when they've never said sorry. And maybe, you, the one listening to this, are the person chosen to mend what is still unfinished. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be the one brave enough to begin. Brave enough to forgive first. Brave enough to open your heart first. Because the light of Sagittarius is not only meant to guide your own path, but also to shine for those who are lost in emotional darkness. If someone just came to your heart, someone in your family whom you no longer want to mention, write this down. I choose peace for my family. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. The greatest lesson I've learned from my own family is this. We cannot change the past, but we can rewrite the way it shapes our future. And you, at this age, are not just living for yourself. You are leaving a spiritual legacy for the next generation. You may not realize it, but one small act from you, a phone call, a hug, a gentle question, could shift the emotional climate of your entire family. Maybe you are the bridge between a hardened father and a child desperate for affirmation. Between a mother who once shut down, and a daughter who never got to hold her hand and cry. You don't have to do this alone. God is with you. And He is the one who gave you a heart big enough to love the ones who once seemed unlovable. To forgive what once felt unforgivable. And to become a healer for a whole generation. In the next part, I'll talk about something else that's also moving quietly in your life. A renewal of your spiritual life. A reconnection to a faith that once felt cold. About the sacred light that will guide you through the coming trials, with wide open eyes and a full heart. There are seasons in life when all the noise outside starts to lose its meaning. Things that once thrilled you begin to lose their spark. Places that once made you feel alive now make you feel tired. And maybe you've already entered that very season without even realizing it. The season of spiritual awakening. I believe there comes a point in every person's life, especially for Sagittarius, when all the questions begin to turn inward. No longer, what should I do next? But, who am I really in all of this? And you know what? Those questions, though they may unsettle you, are actually the doorway to a new and beautiful season of life. For Sagittarius, the spiritual journey is never just theory. You don't come to faith through books, but through experience. Through the nights you've fallen, and still heard a quiet voice saying, "Keep going, I'm still here." Through sleepless nights, where only you and your silent tears remained. And yet, a fragile light breathed in the space around you. I used to think spiritual awakening came like a glorious beam of light shining through the sky. But then I understood. Real awakening often begins in the smallest things. A morning when you wake and just want to sit still. A Bible verse that suddenly makes you cry. A piece of music that unlocks memories you thought you had buried. That is how God knocks. Gently, patiently, and with deep love. If you are in a season where everything external feels meaningless, don't be afraid. It is not a sign that you're lost. It's a sign that you're turning onto a deeper path. A path where you no longer live because you have to, but because you've been called. And I believe that at this stage of life, when your heart has tasted both love and loss, when your mind no longer chases noise, and when your soul begins to listen more than speak, that is when God begins to speak to you the clearest. The lesson I've learned after years of hustling, serving, and chasing approval is this. No success can heal a soul that has never touched the presence of the Creator. You can have it all. Fame, position, wealth. But if you don't have peace, you're still wandering. And that peace only comes when you're willing to stop. To sit still. To look inward. And ask, God, what are you saying to me in this season? For Sagittarius, awakening doesn't pull you away from the world. It helps you live within it, without being swept away by it. It gives you eyes that see farther, not just goals, but meaning. Not just direction, but purpose. If this is speaking to your heart, write it down, not for others to see, but to affirm it to yourself. I choose to walk in the light. God doesn't need you to be perfect in order to speak with you. And sometimes, when you feel the least worthy, that's when He is closest. He just needs you to be honest. Honest that you're tired. Honest that you're searching. Honest that you need something more sacred to lean on. And when you're honest, you will see that He's always been there. Not far. Not distant. But near, in every breath. In every quiet moment you thought no one could hear. I believe that after the age of 40, spiritual awakening isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. Because it's at this point that you no longer want to live fast. You want to live true. And only when your soul is connected to something greater than yourself can you truly understand why you're still here. In the next part, I'll talk about the miracle that happens when you begin living in alignment with that inner calling. The unexpected transformation of your everyday life. From your habits, to your health, to the way you greet each morning, everything will begin to shift. Not because you force it, but because the light inside you has changed. And that will begin to show on the outside. When the soul begins to change, so does life. Not through big dramatic events, but through the smallest of choices, made with deep intention. I believe that at a certain point in life, especially once you've crossed the threshold of 40, everything on the outside starts to reflect what's truly happening inside. You no longer eat just to be full. You choose food that heals. You no longer stay up late for no reason. You begin to treasure quiet mornings with a cup of tea, a passage of scripture, a moment of stillness. What once seemed small suddenly becomes sacred. A ritual you don't want to miss. For Sagittarius, you can't stay long in things that aren't real. You may have once gone to crowded parties, smiled all evening, and yet felt completely empty inside. You need to feel connected. And as your spirit changes, you begin to drift away from relationships that no longer nourish your heart. You start to choose stillness over noise. You begin to stay close to those who bring you peace, rather than those who make you feel like you have to pretend to be okay. I used to think that to change your life, you had to do something big. But then I realized, if you just change your morning, you've already begun to change your destiny. Because how you begin your day, with gratitude, with slow breathing, with your gaze turned towards something sacred, will take you on a completely different path. If you're in that stage right now, where you feel the need to live more gently, more truthfully, more deeply, please don't dismiss it. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of spiritual maturity. And if this feels true for you, write it down as a quiet affirmation from your heart. I choose to live in truth with the light inside me. In the next part, I'll talk about the unexpected thing waiting for you on this journey. The destined travels that don't just change your perspective, but change you. Because for Sagittarius, every journey is a sacred invitation to return to your most original self. For Sagittarius, travel is never just about moving from one place to another. Every journey carries a calling, a deep invitation from the universe. Come home to yourself. You may have traveled far. You may have climbed mountains, crossed oceans, wandered through crowded cities or quiet countryside. But at some point, something inside begins to shift. You no longer travel to escape, or to search for something outside. You travel to listen. To be in a place where no one knows who you are, so you can remember who you've always been. I believe that at a certain age, especially when your heart is weary from the roles you've played, a timely journey can become a turning point. Sometimes, in the middle of a foreign cafe, with unfamiliar music playing, you suddenly remember something you had been trying to forget. Or you stand before a nameless sunset, with no one there to witness it, and feel closer to God than you ever have before. I once had a journey like that. Not far. Not luxurious. Just a few days away from the city. But in a moment sitting alone among the silent mountains and trees, I broke down in tears. Not because I was sad, but because I had returned to myself. All the fear, all the doubt, seemed to dissolve. And I understood. To go far is to find your heart again. For you, Sagittarius, the upcoming journeys are not coincidences. They are sacred reminders. You may not yet know where you're going, but you'll know when the time comes. And when you take that step, don't just carry your luggage. Carry this question in your heart. What does God want me to learn on this journey? If this speaks to you, write it down. I am ready to walk the journey God has prepared for me. In the next part, I'll talk about the revival of your life's purpose. About something you thought you had let go of, but has only been resting, quietly waiting to awaken. Some things we think we've released are really just asleep. Like a seed buried beneath dry soil. Seemingly dead, but silently waiting for the right rain to rise again. And if you're a Sagittarius, I believe something like that is inside you, too. A dream. An old desire. A calling you once felt you were born to fulfill. But because of life, obligations, past wounds, you tucked it away in a quiet corner of your soul. But then, on an ordinary morning, you remember. Not with your mind, but with a stirring in your chest. A deep knowing. I'm not finished. There is still something I must do. And that first calling from God? He never forgot it, even if you stopped speaking of it. I used to think that purpose was something we had to search for. In jobs, in success, in visible accomplishments. But after years of wandering, I realized. True purpose is not about where we end up. It's about how we live, every single day. And when you live in alignment, honestly shining the light within you, whether you're planting a garden or writing a book, you are fulfilling your sacred purpose. For Sagittarius, purpose is never a fixed path. It's a path of expansion. Expanding your vision. Expanding your faith. Expanding your capacity to love this world deeply. Maybe you've thought, isn't it too late to start again? But you know what? It's because you've walked long enough that now. You have the wisdom to know what truly matters. If you're listening right now and a dream suddenly sparked within you, something that once made you feel alive, kept you up at night with passion, something that reminded you, I wasn't born just to survive. Please, don't silence it. Don't call it too late. Call it what it is. A sacred return. The universe doesn't call unripe souls. And if you're hearing this, perhaps you are ready. Write this down as a declaration. I am ready to live the purpose I was born for. Not to show off, but to begin. To take the first steps, even the smallest ones, back toward your truest self. A lesson I've learned from the wisest souls is this. Every soul has its own song. And if you don't sing it, the world will be missing a note no one else can replace. And you, Sagittarius, you are that song. A melody that not only speaks of life, but awakens it in others. In the final part, I will speak of the unexpected reward waiting for you. Not just peace in your soul, but real-world opportunities, finances, and the kind of fulfillment you don't have to chase. They come when you live in alignment. The universe doesn't just lead you through challenges to make you stronger. It quietly prepares a gift for you. A reward that doesn't come from striving, but from understanding when you've truly lived in alignment with the light inside you. For Sagittarius, fulfillment is never just about material abundance. It's the feeling of peace when you lay your head down at night, knowing you lived this day with meaning, knowing you no longer play a role, no longer try to be someone else. You are yourself. And that alone is the most sacred form of wealth. But the most beautiful thing is, when you live in truth, other things begin to come. Opportunities, resources, doors that once shut on you so coldly now gently open. Not because you chased them, but because you stopped running from who you truly are. I've seen it, people over 50 suddenly receiving unexpected income. An inheritance. A contract they never thought possible. And they didn't receive it with greed. They received it with humility. Because they understood. This is not a reward for perfection. It's a gift for faithfulness. If you feel like you've gone too far, missed too much, have nothing left to hope for, I'm here to remind you of one thing. The final chapter of the story always belongs to the light. And for Sagittarius, you don't just live for yourself. The light you carry flows outward. To your family. To your community. To people you've never even met. Simply through the way you live. The way you speak. the way you love. So if you remember just one thing today, let it be this. You were never ordinary. You are a bearer of fire. A carrier of vision. A spark of life in places that once felt dead. The universe doesn't need you to do more. It only needs you to return to the one place you've always belonged. Yourself. Sagittarius. The one born to explore. To ignite. To lead. And as long as you're breathing, that journey isn't over. Pause. Take one deep breath. And remember, you're still being called. Write this final truth down. As a mark of this journey. I am ready to live a fulfilled life, aligned with the soul I was created to be. Thank you for staying until the very end. If this journey touched your heart, share this video with someone you believe needs light too. Because light was never meant to be kept. It was made to be shared. And always remember, the best thing of all may still be on its way. Invitation from the future. A career opportunity. An unexpected turning point. A path you never imagined, but that somehow is waiting just for you. Some changes in life don't arrive with thunder. They come with a very small, but very clear feeling. A quiet urging in your chest, it's time. It's time to step out of your comfort zone. It's time to stop doing what you've always done, and begin doing what your soul truly longs for. And if you're a Sagittarius, I believe you've felt this before. Maybe you're in a stable job, holding a position others admire. But deep down, you still hear that calling. A voice that's not loud, but persistent. This isn't the end. There's still something greater meant for you. I used to think that in midlife, the wisest thing was to hold on to what you already have. But then I realized, sometimes, stability itself is the trap that keeps us from truly living. Some things we hold on to, not because we still love them, but because we've grown used to them. And for a sign like Sagittarius, who needs to expand, to explore, to step into new territory, familiarity can become a prison. I once met a Sagittarius woman, 59 years old at the time. She had worked over 30 years as an accountant in a family-run company. She didn't hate the job, but she didn't love it either. One day, after her mother passed away, she started writing down childhood memories. Writing to remember. Writing to warm the empty spaces. And then, from those pages, something miraculous happened. She found her voice again. She submitted her first manuscript at age 60. By 62, she had become a beloved author with a memoir that healed thousands. She once told me something I'll never forget. At that point, I didn't need success anymore. I just needed to feel truly alive. And the moment I stopped trying to succeed, God opened the door for me. You see, sometimes a career is not what we do to make a living. It is what we were born to do, when the soul is ripe and faith has grown strong. And for Sagittarius, a career transition at this stage of life is not merely a choice. It is a calling. The universe is bringing unexpected opportunities closer to you. You may meet someone who says just the right thing to awaken a dream that has long been asleep. A door you never expected may suddenly open. A small failure today might actually be a sign that it's time to take a new direction. But the most important thing, you must believe that the best chapter is still waiting to be written. This is the lesson I want to share with you. Age is not a wall. It is a map. A map made of experiences, of wisdom, of a heart that has been broken but never gave up. And it's those very markings that will lead you to a kind of work you're not only good at, but that makes you feel truly alive every single day. If you're listening to this and something inside you is quietly stirring, write down a personal commitment to yourself. I am ready to step into a new chapter in my career. Write it not for others to see, but so you can see clearly that you've heard the calling, that you've dared to answer. I won't say that change is easy, but I believe, with the faith and courage of Sagittarius, you won't just change your job. You will change the way you see yourself. And the most beautiful part is, you're not walking alone. Heaven is still walking with you. Every time you step out of the old, God brings you closer to what was truly meant for you. Maybe you've thought before, it's too late for me. But no. You're not late. You're just right on time. Right when your soul is wide enough to receive truth. And your heart is strong enough to hold on to it. A career is not the final destination. It's the vessel through which you share the light you carry. Whether you write books, open a small cafe, teach, garden, care for the elderly, or go back to college. If it makes you feel truly alive, then that is your sacred career. And when you live in alignment with it, you'll realize, money is no longer the biggest issue. Because the universe always provides for the souls who walk the path they were called to. In the next part, I'll speak to something that touches the heart even deeper than money or career, a love. But not a past love. A miracle that is coming. A soul connection that will make you believe, it's never too late to love again. And this time, it's the right kind of love. Love at this age is not like the love we knew when we were young. It is not loud. Not passionate in a way that makes us lose direction. But it is deep. It is gentle. And it arrives like a miracle, when we've stopped expecting it. I've always believed that true love doesn't come to fill our emptiness. It comes when we've already become whole from within. When we are no longer looking for someone to save us, but for someone to walk with us, to live a life of meaning together. If you are a Sagittarius, you've probably loved with all your heart. You love with innocence and rare trust. You're willing to go far, to cross boundaries, to love someone with all the freedom in your spirit. But because of that, you're easily wounded. Because when you love, you don't hold anything back. And maybe, because you've once loved so deeply, you've also withdrawn. You closed your heart, not because you stopped believing in love, but because you couldn't bear to be wrong again. You didn't want to hope, only to lose again. But I'm here to tell you this. True love never arrives too late. It comes when we've learned all the lessons we needed to learn. When our hearts have been shaped not by fantasy, but by truth. And more than anything, when we've finally learned to love ourselves. I once asked a Sagittarius woman, widowed at 52. Do you still believe in love? She smiled and said, I don't go looking for love anymore. But if it finds me, I'll know it's grace. And you know what? A year later, she met a man who had lost his wife to a terminal illness. They didn't come together out of lack. They came together because both had come to understand how fragile life is. And they wanted to live the rest of it sincerely, deeply, and with no regrets. The love you're about to meet may be just like that. Not loud. Not showy. But it will touch the deepest part of your soul. It will leave you quiet. Not because you're overwhelmed, but because you'll realize. Ah, this is what I've quietly longed for, even when I pretended I was fine. Love that comes to Sagittarius at this time is no longer a romance. It is companionship. It is a spiritual friend. It is a gaze that understands you without needing long explanations. It is a hand that holds yours, but doesn't confine you. It is a love that respects your freedom. And still reaches deep enough to make you want to stay. If your heart is stirring as you hear this, write it down. I am ready to love again, in the truest way. Not to show anyone that you're soft, but to show the universe that your heart is still alive. Still dreaming. Still able to be moved by something sacred. The lesson I've learned after observing hundreds of love stories is this. True love is not about perfect timing. It's about the right person, when you've become the right version of yourself. And that love might be closer than you think. It might be someone you meet at a casual gathering. It might be through an unexpected invitation. It might even be someone you've known for a long time, but are only now seeing with new eyes. God doesn't play games with our hearts. He doesn't guide us through painful relationships to punish us, but to teach us how to recognize what's right when it truly appears. And I believe that time is coming. You don't have to go searching anymore. Just live in your own light. And when the moment is right, love will come. Not early. Not late. But exactly on time. In the next part, I'll speak about another sacred thing that's moving in your life, family. About connections you thought were broken that are now being healed. About your special role in mending a generation. And why you, bearer of the Sagittarius light, are the bridge the universe is using to bring peace back to a place that once knew pain. Family is a simple word, but sometimes holds the deepest complexity in our lives. It is where we first learn how to love, how to trust, how to forgive. And it is also where we first taste pain, rejection, and things that have no name. If you're a Sagittarius, I believe you carry something very special inside. A heart that always wants to go far, but also longs to return. No matter how far you travel, there's always a part of your soul quietly anchored to a place called home. And maybe, because you feel so deeply, you've also been hurt deeply. I've met many people between the ages of 40 and 65 who carry old wounds left by the people they once loved the most. A mother who never said, "I'm proud of you." A father who was never there. A sibling who did something unforgivable. A child who broke your heart.